What's up, dudes? Max here, back with the final Dragon Ball Z Fighters breakdown of the characters that we played at the Namco Bandai event, where we got to check out the latest Gamescom build. This one specifically is the final of the 6 characters, but stay tuned, there might be more for the original 6 in the near future. Again, a big thank you to the Bandai Namco guys for letting us capture this footage, as it was a special event just for media. The final breakdown today is talking about Krillin, and Krillin, amongst all the roster, in my opinion, was one of the more difficult to get a base understanding of what to do. Like I said, similar to some other characters in the game, he is a smaller fighter, no malice intended. The dude's arms are very short and stubby, making it kind of difficult for him to reach across the screen for some attacks. But Krillin is possibly one of the more interesting ones in the game because he's one of the guys that you feel there's hidden potential, just not enough with about 30 minutes worth of time to really figure out anything amazing, and there's a couple of really good reasons, so let's start off with his special moves. It's been a while since the event, so my apologies if I mess up the names of these things, but I'll just call them as I see them. He had a duplication special where he essentially throws out a kick that kind of arcs over in certain directions. There's like a shorter one, there's a medium one, and a longer one, and this is something to kind of follow up and apply pressure. It's a lot different than Android 17 does with Android 18, but in this situation, I feel that it's good specifically just to mix up the opponent because, unlike Android 17 coming out to cover Android 18, then Android 18 can continue pressure, this thing was a special that was activated by Krillin, so it can be kind of hard to follow it up even though he's making a copy of himself. So the interesting thing is that you don't have to let the entire move rock. You don't have to let it go out completely and finish the kick. If you hold down the button, the duplicate actually vanishes right before it hits the opponent, making your opposition think they're getting attacked, but they're actually not, which is a pretty decent mix-up, allowing you to follow up with an assist or something of that nature. I'm not too sure how to use it super effectively, especially in combo. It was kind of hard to use in combo, but you can tell that they're setting up for something dirty. We just don't know exactly what it is yet. Now, the next special moves are where this character really shines, which is in projectiles, or as they call them, fire blasts, or key balls, you know, something like that. A lot of his projectiles are really unique, and they're kind of similar to what Omen does in a game like Killer Instinct, where these things seem to be very random. They go in different directions, and actually controlling their trajectory was something that we could not figure out when we were playing this character. His regular projectile would angle down, it would go up. If he jumped, it would go straight down, which was fairly consistent, but sometimes they would take an arc of 3 different types of projectiles with just a single button press, and we were like, how the hell do we force this thing to go upwards, much less downwards, much less straight? He does have a Kamehameha blast like most of the characters in the game, which is just a full screen beam, but it does have a gimmick to it. If you hold down the blast or hold down the button as you press it, you can press up to jump around. You get a few different jump actions right before you throw this thing, which is a neat little trick and is something that no one else in the roster can currently do. Similar to the random projectiles we were just talking about, he does have the Sensu Bean attack where he essentially throws a rock or he throws a Sensu Bean. This thing is completely random as well. The chance of getting a Sensu Bean in active combat seems relatively low. This thing is pretty good. It healed about 20 to 25% health, and it's very obvious that it is a Sensu Bean. It's like a giant glowing green bean on the ground, while the rock pressure might actually be pretty good. I wasn't sure if the rock disappeared after you threw it, even if you got hit. I think it might actually stay on screen, which could make it a decent follow-up to any attack in general. These rocks aren't amazing. They kind of act like Dudley's flower in a game like Street Fighter 3, where it doesn't have much of a hitbox, it doesn't have much of a hit stun, but it is there and it can interrupt things, which can be a very useful team mechanic. You can control its direction. It goes like forward in 3 different angles. Sometimes he'll throw it backwards and get a Sensu Bean instead, so this is one of those things where it's kind of random at the moment, and I believe the Sensu Bean can be picked up by the opposition to recover health as well. So it's one of those other elements about Krillin, which is kind of kooky and kind of hard to control, but that seems to be an ongoing theme with the character. This last one, I completely forgot the name of this move. I'm sure some of you guys will absolutely know that are Krillin fans in the comments below, but he has like a psychic blast kind of area effect special where he touches the top of his head and there's a giant circle around him that usually acts as that active hitbox. This thing reaches a lot farther than you think as well, and it does stun the opponent in some way. I believe it might be good just to catch people off guard every once in a while, because even on block, it seemed pretty good. You can most likely cancel it into super, but once again, it was one of those specials that was kind of of hard to throw in amongst all the other stuff, but it absolutely appears to have an application in moments that might get a little too hairy. This could essentially be his Dragon Punch of some kind to get out of there, which is probably something he needs just because of the minimal damage as well as the very short limbs. Krillin sadly only has a limited amount of special moves, but it's made up with the fact that one of his specials is modifiable in some way. The first one is his Disc Super, which throws out a disc projectile traveling across the screen. It's really fast. We see this with other characters as well, especially Android 18. This one, though, you can spend 1 bar to throw 1 disc, which is very minimal damage, but if you want to go for broke, you can press buttons repeatedly after, and as long as you have the meter to do so, all the way up to 5 meters, you can throw, I believe, up to 5 discs maximum, which is kind of awesome to look at, especially if you know it's going to finish off the opponent. And his level 3 is pretty basic in terms of the other characters' level 3s, has a lot of invulnerability at the startup, but I believe it covers a lot of the stage space because it is a projectile. So if you want to punish someone from, indeed, full screen, characters like Goku can do this with his Saiyan level 3, it actually gives it a decent amount of utility, considering the fact that it's going to do a lot of damage, especially if you don't combo into it. The current build of the game, comboing into level 3s, they do not do a lot of damage at all, but this might be a situation with Krillin, you want to keep the opponent out all the time, and then they have to be fearful of you because you have a level 3 stock, and doing that much damage as a result of a projectile from full screen, that's actually pretty good. That's all I got for Krillin right now. He was definitely one of the tougher characters to figure out with the limited amount of time we did have. The Dragon Ball FighterZ beta is coming up extremely soon. I'll be back with more stuff very soon for this game, including, and I hope, breakdowns of the other characters, the E3 characters that were available a couple months ago that will also be in the beta. I want to try to give you guys a small guide like this for every single character that is going to be available for the limited amount of time the beta will be up, at least so you can get a basic understanding of what the hell's going on with the time you'll have with Dragon Ball coming up in the next few days. As always, dudes, thank you a ton for watching. I'll be back with more updates for Dragon Ball FighterZ as soon as possible. Here's a cool Krillin combo. My name is Max, and I'll see you next time.